stop recommending Linux Mint to Windows users. Here is what to use instead. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're tackling a question that comes up almost every single time someone asks about switching from Windows to Linux. Should I start with Linux Mint? And look, for years, the answer was basically automatic. Linux Mint, done, goodbye. But I have been thinking about this a lot lately, and honestly, that advice is starting to feel outdated. So, in this video, I am going to break down 3 different types of users and show you exactly which Linux distro makes the most sense for each one. By the end, you will know precisely where to start. No guesswork, no overwhelm. Let's get into it. So, why Linux Mint gets recommended so much? First, let's be fair to Linux Mint. It didn't earn its reputation for nothing. Linux Mint is stable, beginner friendly, and it has a desktop environment called Cinnamon that genuinely does look and feel a little like Windows. For someone who has never touched Linux before, that familiarity can be really comforting. You're not starting at a completely alien interface on day one. It also has massive community behind it, solid documentation, and it just works. You install it and things mostly behave the way you expect. That's not nothing. But here is the thing. Mostly works and looks a bit like Windows are a pretty low bar when there are distros out there doing so much more for specific types of users. Linux Mint is a jack for all trades, and sometimes what you actually need is a specialist. So, let me introduce you to 3 types of Windows users and the distro that actually fits each one best. Now, for the power user or daily driver crowd, KDE Plasma distros. The first group is people who use their PC seriously for work, for productivity, for daily life. Maybe you are in a spreadsheets all day, or you are a developer, a content creator, a student. You need your machine to feel polished, performant, and customizable. For this group, I'd point you straight toward KDE Plasma. KDE Plasma is a desktop environment. Think of it like the face of your operating system. And it is genuinely one of the most impressive pieces of software in the Linux world. Out of the box, it looks clean and modern. It has a taskbar, a start menu style launcher, a system tray, all the things you are used to. But what really sets it apart is the depth of customization underneath. You can reshape nearly every part of the interface without ever touching a command line. It also comes with the tools that replace common Windows features. KDE Connect, for example, lets your phone and PC talk to each other, similar to what Windows does with Phone Link, but honestly better. Now, which distro should you run KDE Plasma on? First, if you just want something solid and familiar to start with, try Kubuntu. It's Ubuntu with KDE Plasma on top. Rock solid, widely supported, easy to use. Number 2. If you want the latest features and a more cutting edge experience, Fedora KDE is excellent. It's clean, well maintained, and stays very current. Number 3. If you are nervous about breaking things, check out openSUSE Sleep or openSUSE Tumbleweed. They come with a tool called Snapper that automatically takes snapshot of your system. So if something goes wrong, you can roll back with a few clicks. That's a genuinely great safety net for newcomers. Any of these will serve a professional or daily driver user. far better than Cinnamon ever could. Now, for the gamers, gaming focused distros. Okay, Group 2 Gamers. If you are moving from Windows because you're fed up with the forced updates, telemetry, or whatever the latest reason is this week, and you still want to game, Linux Mint is not your best starting point. There are distros that are purpose built for gaming, and they make a massive difference. The big name here is Bazzite. Bazzite comes with the Steam pre-installed and pre-configured. It supports Proton out of the box, which is the compatibility layer that lets you run Windows games on Linux. And it's actually built on a modern immutable base, which sounds scary but essentially means the core system is protected from accidental damage, which is great for someone who's new and experimenting. If the immutable concept makes you uncomfortable, Nobara is another strong option. It's based on Fedora. It's gaming optimized, and it feels more like a traditional Linux install. And if you're chasing raw performance, CachyOS is worth a look. It's built with custom kernel patches and optimizations specifically aimed at squeezing more performance out of your hardware. It's a bit more advanced, but if you're a gamer who likes to tinker, it rewards that curiosity. None of this require you to be a Linux expert. They are designed to get you gaming as fast as possible. Now, for the just make it feel like Windows group, which is Zorin OS. Now, the third group, and this is the one I find the most interesting. These are people who completely reasonably don't want to learn a new interface. They don't care about customization depth. They don't care about gaming performance. They just want their computer to work the way it always has, with a little friction as possible. A year or two ago, Linux Mint was genuinely the best answer for this group. Today, I think that crown belongs to Zorin OS 17 and 18. Zorin OS is designed from the ground up for people coming from Windows. The layout looks like Windows. The taskbar is in the right place. The menu feels familiar, but it goes deeper than just cosmetics. Zorin OS includes compatibility with OneDrive to make the file transfers easy. And it even has a feature where if you accidentally try to run a Windows exe file, it will either suggest a Linux alternative or offer to set it up through Wine, which is a compatibility layer for Windows apps. That level of thoughtfulness is remarkable for a newcomer. It removes so many of the small friction points that make people give up on Linux in the first week. One honest note, Zorin OS does have a paid pro version with extra features. There is a free version that's perfectly usable, but some things do sit behind that paywall. Keep that in mind when you are deciding. Now, quick summary and recommendation chart. Let me make this really simple for you. Are you a regular user or a professional? Start with the Kubuntu. Graduate to Fedora KDE or openSUSE when you are ready. Are you a gamer? Go straight to Bazzite. Consider Nobara or CachyOS if you want alternatives. Do you just want Windows but not Windows? Zorin OS is your answer. Linux Mint is still a good distro. It's not going anywhere, but good shouldn't be the ceiling of what we recommend to people making a big switch. These alternatives aren't harder, they're just better targeted. And when someone is taking that first step away from Windows, Matching them to the right tool from day one makes all the difference. If you found this video helpful, drop a like and consider subscribing. We talk about Linux, open source software, and making the switch from proprietary systems a lot on this channel. Let me know in the comments, which distro did you start with? And would you recommend it to a complete newcomer today? I'd love to hear where everyone's at. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.